As Donald Trump increases his public attacks on Vice President Kamala Harris's mental fitness and intelligence, the vice president recently flipped the script during an interview and dropped a devastating new ad attacking Trump's mental fitness in turn. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a couple of clips to look at in this video, but I just want to remind you, we are officially, at the time of recording this video, 7 days out from the November 5th, 2024 election. If you have not made a plan to vote, please do so. If you're an eligible voter, but you have not registered, please check, because many states permit same-day voter registration, in which you can go, register to vote, and vote the same day. And of course, there's plenty of other alternatives as well: early voting, absentee voting, mail-in voting, many options that are before you, so please avail yourself of your right to vote if you have it. Now, in terms of mental fitness, this is something that we've been talking about time and time again, because when President Biden was the presumptive Democratic nominee, centrists and Republicans and MAGA Republicans amplified concerns about the president's mental fitness. But now that President Biden is no longer in the race, much of that focus is now on Donald Trump, though I would argue still nowhere near to the level it should be. And ironically, in turn, Donald Trump has been publicly attacking the mental fitness and intelligence of the considerably younger, considerably more mentally fit, considerably more intelligent Vice President Harris, and he's been doing so publicly. And during a recent interview with Norah O'Donnell, Vice President Harris actually flipped the script and threw down the gauntlet to Donald Trump.
Donald Trump was on Joe Rogan, and he called you, Madam Vice President, a very low IQ person, and said, I think she needs to take a cognitive test. I think Kamala should have a test because there's something missing, there's something wrong with her. Would you take a cognitive test?
Sure. I would challenge him to take the same one. But here's the thing. This is what he has resorted to, and I think he actually is increasingly unstable and unhinged. And has resorted to name-calling because he actually has no plan for the American people. But on the point of why Donald Trump is unfit to be president of the United States, don't take it from me. Listen to the people who know him best. His former chiefs of staff, most recently, 4-star Marine General John Kelly. Listen to 2 former secretaries of defense who worked for him. Listen to his national security advisor. Listen to his vice president, who have all, in one way or another, said he is unfit to be president again, should never be president again, and is dangerous. It has become clear from the people who know him best, all Republicans, by the way, who served with him in the Oval Office and the Situation Room, not to mention Donald Trump's own words, saying that he would terminate, and I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States of America.
So yeah, she flipped the script on him. Oh, you want to take a cognitive test? Sure, I'll take one. And why don't you take the same one, right? We know that Donald Trump doesn't want to get into any sort of direct comparison between he and the vice president with respect to mental fitness, which is why he declined a rematch on ABC, CNN, even Fox News of all places. Even Fox couldn't get Donald Trump to commit to debating her a second time because he doesn't want a side-by-side comparison of their relative competence. So when she says, yeah, I'll take a cognitive test or some sort of mental test, and why don't you take the same one and we'll compare results, that's throwing down the gauntlet. That's inviting Trump to basically step into another side-by-side comparison, the very last thing that he wants. We'll get into the polling, by the way, in terms of mental fitness, because this is really important. But I should also say that, the flipping of the script and the counter-punching from Vice President Harris was also paired with a pretty brutal ad from the Harris campaign attacking Donald Trump's age, mental fitness, and general, cognitive decline.
Welcome to Mar-a-Lago Senior Living, a state-of-the-art senior facility located on the coast of Florida. If the senior in your life is getting exhausted, it might be time for a change. Here at Mar-a-Lago Senior Living, we care for even the most particular residents.
My teleprompter people doing a great job. As are Asians.
Even the ones who still feel young at heart.
And I'm not 80, and I'm not that close to 80. Put on Pavarotti singing Ave Maria.
Many residents find their favorite music comforting. If the senior in your life tends to wander off, our round-the-clock care has you covered. Mar-a-Lago Senior Living. Watch the Florida sunset while you sundown. Welcome to
Pretty brutal stuff. But again, I think we're past the point where civility politics is really a concern at this point, nor should it be, especially when you consider the fact that Donald Trump has been brutal in this respect. He's long since abandoned civility politics, making personal and character attacks left, right, and center. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I'm glad to see Democrats in the Harris campaign actually bringing the fire, bringing the heat. Quite frankly, we actually saw President Biden towards the beginning of the year when he, was really increasing his campaigning. He was also counterpunching pretty hard as well. So it's good. Quite frankly, this is something that probably should have been done years ago, but I suppose better late than never. The question of mental fitness, again, we keep revisiting this because, number one, it is important to evaluate whether the candidate from either party who is running for the most important job in the world is mentally fit, mentally prepared for the job. It's a perfectly valid concern, which is why I've said from the beginning, my issue when Republicans were criticizing President Biden or questioning President Biden wasn't that they were ever doing so. It's the double standard, right? They would only ever question Biden and never question Trump, even though they're of comparable age. And I would argue Trump is just very stupid, whereas President Biden is not. President Biden is a smart man. And their respective records as chief executive reflect a greater competence. Biden and Harris got much more of their agenda accomplished than Trump, Pence. And again, I say this as just people watching. If they say, well, I don't like that Harris and Biden got more of their agenda accomplished because I disagree with their agenda, that's fine. But the fact that they were able to check more boxes off on the list is a sign of greater competence. If you and I, two candidates, have goals and you accomplish more of your goals than me, it doesn't matter if I think your goals suck. You got your agenda accomplished. That's a greater sign of competence than somebody who doesn't. So it's the double standard that's really the issue. And we Media Matters did an analysis when Biden was the presumptive nominee compared to Trump by a 10-to-1 ratio, by a factor of 10. There were more articles written in mainstream media and more time dedicated in mainstream media to questioning Biden's mental fitness than Trump's, despite, again, similar age, gaffes, et cetera, and so forth. But now that Harris, who's only 60, right, she's 20 years, 18 years younger than Donald Trump, now that she is the Democratic nominee, a lot of that scrutiny, not all, and it should be all, we should hold people to the same standard, but much of that scrutiny has shifted to Trump. And the polls reflect this. I just want to say, recent NBC poll, Harris leads on fitness and honesty. Trump is ahead on economic issues. On the issues and presidential qualities, the poll shows Harris leading Trump by 13 points nationally on the question of which candidate has the necessary mental and physical fitness to be president, and she's ahead by 10 points on being honest and trustworthy. So to the extent that you want your presidents to be honest and trustworthy, to have personal integrity, to not be corrupt, and to also be mentally and physically fit to be competent for the job, poll after poll after poll shows that Harris enjoys a commanding lead over Donald Trump. So it's ironic that the very people who invited this question once before are now running from it as far as possible. And Donald Trump is actually trying in vain to suggest that it's actually Harris who's not mentally and physically fit, even though all the evidence is to the contrary. And so that's why I think it's a brilliant move by the vice president to throw down the gauntlet and say, you know what, I'll take your damn test, but you're going to take the same one. And they should publish the results. And it would be disastrous for Trump, again, because it would invite another side-by-side comparison between the two. And that's the very last thing that Trump wants in this race. But that's my take. In the meantime, let me know what your take is. Let me know what you think in the comments.